Hi guys, it's Katie, back with another edition of my vlog, and I thought today I would answer a few questions and comments that we got on the video I did a couple of weeks ago about our plans for Dungeon Breakout and the future of the Dungeon Degenerates line. We got a lot of good feedback, thank you guys, I appreciate that, and I attempted to answer everyone in the comments on the original video, but I know not everyone reads the comments on the videos, so I wanted to go ahead and address pretty much the top 3 things that people had to say about our future plans. So without further ado, your questions answered. The top thing that we heard from everyone was, we don't want an easier to play game. We want more playable content for Hand of Doom. And we hear you, absolutely. We want to make more playable content for Hand of Doom. The problem is we can't do that right now. While Sean is in the stroke recovery zone, we're limited as far as what we can put out there. We are working in the most conceptual sense on the future content for Dungeon Degenerates Hand of Doom. The problem is, just like with Sean's drawing skills and walking skills and everything else skills, he's also having to relearn how to communicate his ideas. So he's having to relearn how to speak the way he wants to speak and write the way he wants to write. And of course, because he's relearning this stuff, everything takes much longer than it would for him normally and much longer than we want it to. So we just have a long road ahead of us, and hopefully you guys can hang in there for more playable content in the future. In the meantime, our attempt with Dungeon Breakout is to capture kind of a different slice of the board game market than you guys actually represent. And we hope you'll support the Dungeon Breakout Kickstarter because you're fans of the entire world that we've built here with Dungeon Degenerates and what we're doing. But I'll admit, this game actually isn't for you guys. It's more like, I kind of see the tabletop game market as broken into 2 pieces. There's the casual gamers and the serious gamers. You guys are the serious gamers. You have shown that you want a deep dive into a really dense world that you can just totally play around in and get super involved in. And we love that, and we love that we were able to bring that to you. But there's this whole other side of the game market, which is the casual gamers who, again, they look at Hand of Doom and they just go, oh my God, there's so many rules. There's so much stuff. It's so heavy. All of those complaints that we hear, criticisms, if you will. It's not easy to get into for your casual gamers or your people who just don't have the amount of time you need to commit to playing Hand of Doom. I myself can't commit time to play Hand of Doom because I'm too busy. So I'm looking for a game that I can play quickly with people who don't have the time to get all into those rules. And so our idea here is, we're trying to capture both sides of the tabletop game market at the same time. Ultimately, my goal is to have both of these games, Dungeon Breakout and Hand of Doom, and our future games available for sale everywhere, Target and, whatever types of spots, not just at game stores. And I think that the way for us to crack that market is with the easier to get into, easier to play, faster, more popular game that has a lower price point. I've been doing my market research at game stores and bookstores and other places where people buy games. And that $25 price point where it is a game that you can learn in about 5 minutes seems like the total market dominators. So I was like, can we do something in this niche with the Dungeon Degenerates property that will, I said prequel before, but it's not like you can play it through into Hand of Doom. It's more like a gateway drug, if you will, or a virus, right? We're out there to infect everyone with the mind virus of Dungeon Degenerates and that whole world. And if we can make a simpler game that more people can get into so we can get more market share, that's just more people that we've infected with this idea who can get into the world of the War Strike. And hopefully a bunch of the people who buy Dungeon Breakout will explore that world further and buy into Hand of Doom and all of the various supplemental materials that we have made for that. And of course, more sales of any of our products means more budget coming in for us, which means we can then do more content in the future. Right now, we're pretty hamstrung by, we get funding for one project and we can do that project, but then it's like we gotta get more funding for the next project or somehow tap into these larger money streams to make those bigger things happen. So that's really the goal with Dungeon Breakout, again, is to capture kind of a different market than what we've already captured with Hand of Doom. And again, I hope that you guys will buy Dungeon Breakout and give it to your friends who aren't serious gamers but are casual gamers, right? And help us spread this idea far and wide so that we can just keep rolling more and more people here on planet Earth into the Warstrike and this amazing, crazy land that Sean has come up with and populated. That's the whole point here. Sort of a secondary question to that, people were saying, can't you make some more complicated rules for Dungeon Breakout? Rest assured, there are advanced rules, optional rules, if you want to call it that. We have written those in, but we want to keep the base game itself super simple, super quick to learn, super quick to play. Kind of, again, the opposite of Hand of Doom, but in the same world so that people can really get into the world of the Warstrike. So hopefully that answers that question for you guys. The second question that we keep getting is, are you guys going to do a translation of Hand of Doom into another language? We have gotten so many requests for this, mostly from German-speaking players, lots of Spanish-speaking players. A handful of folks have requested French and Swedish, actually. So we absolutely want to do a translated version of Hand of Doom. That is absolutely something that we are planning on doing. The problem is that is a very expensive project. We have learned the hard way as we've done this just how expensive it is to develop a board game, to mount a Kickstarter campaign, to successfully get everybody's Kickstarter rewards to them. You may have noticed if you've been following us all along, we've had to adjust prices upwards as we've figured out, oh, you know what? We are not making enough money on this. We can't keep doing it this way. I'm going to be completely real with you guys. Neither Sean nor I have ever been paid anything for our work on Hand of Doom. Both of us spent over a year maxing out and overworking ourselves, and we wrote ourselves an IOU, which we have not been able to cash in yet. We paid our employees, we paid the printer, we paid for shipping, we paid Kickstarter their cut and BackerKit their cut, and everybody got paid except for me and Sean. So we do this as a labor of love, but we also do it because it's our business and we have bills to pay. So we absolutely want to do a translated version of the game, but I'm here to tell you guys it's going to cost something in the order of $100,000. I know that sounds like a humongous number, but when you think about that, we're going to have to pay a translator to translate all of that text in Hand of Doom. And boy, there's a lot of text in Hand of Doom. We're also going to have to pay an editor to edit the translator's work because I don't speak German or Spanish or any of these other languages. We have to pay for an entire other print run, which then is, let's say we do the German one, that's pretty much unsellable here in the States. So we'd have to do an entire print run just in German and have a German market ready to receive those games and sell them in Germany so that we could make the money on them. So again, my estimate is that we would need to raise about $100,000 in a Kickstarter for this, which translates to about 1,500 backers buying the translated version of the game. And I know that there's probably 1,500 people in Germany who would like a translated version of this game. What I don't know is how to reach them yet. So I'm working on it. If you guys have suggestions, if you know people who are interested in this translation job and want to give me a bid for the translation job, I'm all ears. I'd love to hear about any of it. But again, this is such a massive project and would be so expensive to do. We kind of got to back burner it. If you guys say to me, hey, you know what, run a Kickstarter for the German version of Hand of Doom, we're going to get enough people in there to fund it, I'll do it, because the only risk for me is running the actual Kickstarter. If we don't raise enough funds, we don't do the project. We can do it that way. If you guys tell me that we've got enough demand for this in Germany, we can make it happen. It's a bit much for right now, and so we're kind of pushing it back to the back burner. So hopefully that answers that question. What about a translation? The third question is related to the first question, which is, when will we see new content for Hand of Doom? Like I said before, we're working on it in the most sort of early stage conceptual sense of working on it, but the work is going to be really, really slow. Sean is still very limited in what he has time for in his day, in what he has energy for and mental capacity for. And obviously we're spending most of his limited resources of time and energy right now on stroke recovery, doing those exercises, doing that physical therapy, getting out there, challenging him to do all of these things. He also wants to start working on new missions and playable scenarios for Hand of Doom. But again, it's just going to be very, very slow. And I know you guys are impatient for new stuff to come out, but guess who else is impatient with Sean's stroke recovery? It's me. It's Sean, right? So, the sad news is it's slow. The good news is we are getting there eventually. He actually has recently started a Patreon. I'll go ahead and put a link down in the description so you guys can find that if you want to. I know that he is going to be pre-releasing new concepts and the stuff that he's working on for Hand of Doom to his Patreon audience first. So if you want to get on there and become a patron, that's going to be the best way for you guys to find out about what's next and what these timelines are going to look like for these projects. So I think that's about it. That's the basic gist of most of the feedback that we got from the last video. Again, we are planning on running the Kickstarter for Dungeon Breakout in March, probably towards the end of March is when we're going to start that. We actually want to make sure that we get Acid Vomit delivered to people first before we go running our next Kickstarter. I know you guys like it the best when we do it that way. And we are planning on having Hand of Doom, Mean Streets, and associated accessories for those as part of the Dungeon Breakout Kickstarter. So if you are a person in Europe who has missed the last Kickstarter and is looking to get those materials with the discounted shipping, that's going to be a good way for you to do that. But again, I hope all of you will back that Kickstarter when we roll it out, or share it with friends, the link with friends who might be interested in that Kickstarter. We can't do this without you guys, and we want to be as responsive as we can to your desires and what you guys want to do. But of course, we have to keep that within the framework of what is reasonable for us in terms of energy, time, budget, and just the reality of living in the stroke dimension. So I hope that answers everyone's concerns, or most of them. If you have more, go ahead and leave comments down below. I'll probably address them in a future video if there's enough people asking more questions. Other than that, I hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you again in 2 days for another edition of my vlog. Thanks for watching.